There is something strangely comforting about Mars. Far beyond the noise of Earth, beyond crowded cities, glowing phone screens, traffic lights, and sleepless nights, there drifts a quiet, red world through the dark. A cold desert planet wrapped in dust storms and silence. A place where sunsets glow blue instead of orange, where giant volcanoes sleep for millions of years, and where ancient rivers may have once whispered across stone. Tonight, you are going to slowly drift across that distant world. You do not need to remember every fact. You do not need to stay awake until the end. You can simply let the story of Mars carry you gently into sleep. And as your mind begins to relax, imagine yourself standing beneath a pale Martian sky. Soft red sand stretching endlessly around you. Tiny grains of dust floating through thin, cold air. And above you, two small moons silently crossing the stars. But before we begin our slow journey across the red planet, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy peaceful space stories like this. Welcome to Sleepy Obsidian Study. Now dim the lights, get comfortable, and let us slowly wander through 100 sleepy facts about Mars. Mars is often called the red planet, but its surface is not actually bright red everywhere. Much of the color comes from rust. Tiny particles of iron in the Martian soil slowly oxidized over immense stretches of time, creating a dusty reddish-orange layer that blankets much of the world. If you could stand on Mars and scoop up a handful of soil, it would feel incredibly fine, almost like soft powder. The dust is so delicate that it can stay suspended in the air for long periods of time. Mars is smaller than Earth. In fact, if Earth were the size of a large house, Mars would be closer to the size of a small apartment. Even though Mars is smaller, it contains some of the largest landscapes in the entire solar system. One of them is Olympus Mons, the tallest volcano ever discovered. It rises so high above the Martian plains that standing at its base would make it difficult to even see the summit through the thin atmosphere. Olympus Mons is nearly 3 times taller than Mount Everest. And unlike the sharp, volcanic mountains on Earth. Olympus Mons spreads outward gently over enormous distances, like a giant shield resting across the planet. Mars also contains Valles Marineris, a canyon system so large it would stretch across much of the United States. The canyon is thousands of kilometers long and several kilometers deep. If you floated silently above it in a spacecraft, the landscape below would seem endless. Mars has seasons, just like Earth. Snow falls there, too. But the snow is not always made of water. Sometimes it is made of frozen carbon dioxide, also known as dry ice. Winter on Mars is incredibly cold. At the poles, temperatures can fall so low that the atmosphere itself begins to freeze. The sunsets on Mars are strangely reversed from Earth. Here on Earth, sunsets glow with warm reds and oranges. But on Mars, the fine dust in the atmosphere scatters light differently, causing sunsets to appear soft blue around the setting sun. Imagine standing alone in silence, watching a pale blue sunset over a red desert beneath alien stars. A single day on Mars is called a sol. One sol lasts about 24 hours and 39 minutes. So a Martian day feels surprisingly similar to an Earth day. If humans ever live on Mars, they may slowly adjust to that extra time each day. Mars has two moons named Phobos and Deimos. Their names come from ancient Greek mythology and mean fear and panic. Despite their dramatic names, the moons themselves are small and oddly shaped. They look more like captured asteroids than perfect round moons. Phobos moves across the Martian sky incredibly fast. It rises in the west and sets in the east. To an observer on Mars, it would seem unusual and dreamlike. Deimos moves much more slowly and quietly through the sky. Some scientists believe Mars may once have had oceans. Long ago, rivers may have flowed across the planet. Valleys carved into the surface suggest that water once shaped enormous regions. Ancient lake beds have also been discovered. Billions of years ago, Mars may have looked very different. Perhaps clouds drifted across the sky. Perhaps rain fell softly onto rocky ground. Perhaps shallow seas reflected sunlight beneath a thicker atmosphere. No one truly knows exactly what ancient Mars looked like. And somehow, that mystery makes the planet even more peaceful. The atmosphere on Mars is extremely thin. It is made mostly of carbon dioxide. Because the air is so thin, sounds would travel differently there. A whisper on Mars would feel strangely quiet and distant. Even footsteps would sound softer. The sky on Mars is not always red. During the daytime, it can appear butterscotch or pale orange. Dust floating through the atmosphere changes the color of the sky constantly. Dust storms on Mars can become enormous. Some storms grow so large that they cover the entire planet. For weeks or even months, sunlight can dim behind thick clouds of drifting dust. Yet, even these storms move slowly and silently compared to violent storms on Earth. There are no crashing thunderstorms on Mars. No tropical rain. No roaring oceans. Only wind and dust moving gently through thin, cold air. Mars experiences weaker gravity than Earth. If you weighed 100 pounds on Earth, you would weigh only around 38 pounds on Mars. Walking there would feel light and bouncy. A simple jump could carry you much farther than expected. Scientists have sent many robotic explorers to Mars. These rovers move slowly across the surface, taking photographs, studying rocks, and searching for signs of ancient water. One of the most famous rovers was Opportunity. It operated far longer than expected. Originally planned for only 90 days, it survived for nearly 15 years. Eventually, a giant dust storm darkened the sky. Opportunity lost power and fell silent. Its final message became deeply emotional for many people. The rover reported that the sky was growing dark. Then, after years of exploration, the little machine quietly stopped speaking. Another rover named Curiosity still explores Mars today. It studies rocks, climate, and ancient environments. Its wheels slowly leave tracks across the dusty ground. Those tracks may remain there for an incredibly long time because Mars has very little rain or flowing water to erase them. Imagine footprints lasting for millions of years. Mars contains gigantic dust devils. These swirling towers of wind dance across the surface like ghostly spinning columns. Some are taller than skyscrapers. Yet, because the atmosphere is thin, they are gentler than tornadoes on Earth. Scientists believe underground ice beneath the Martian surface. In some regions, frozen water lies trapped below layers of soil and rock. Future astronauts may one day use this ice for drinking water or fuel. Mars once had a magnetic field. Long ago, this invisible shield may have helped protect the atmosphere. But over time, the magnetic field weakened and disappeared. Without strong protection, much of the atmosphere slowly drifted away into space. As the air thinned, the planet became colder and drier. The silence of Mars today may partly be the result of that ancient change. A year on Mars lasts much longer than a year on Earth. Mars takes about 687 Earth days to orbit the Sun. So seasons on Mars last nearly twice as long.
Imagine a winter stretching quietly across an entire year.
Mars is home to strange rock formations shaped by wind over enormous periods of time.
Some rocks look smooth and sculpted.
Others appear jagged and ancient.
Every stone on Mars has rested beneath alien skies for billions of years. The temperatures on Mars can change dramatically.
During the daytime near the equator, it may become surprisingly mild. But at night, the cold quickly returns. The thin atmosphere cannot hold heat very well.
If you stood on Mars without protection, the environment would be deadly.
Yet, from a distance, the landscapes can appear strangely beautiful.
Golden dunes.
Think horizons, frozen poles, soft shadows stretching across silent valleys. Scientists continue searching Mars for signs of ancient microbial life. Tiny organisms may once have existed in warm, wet environments billions of years ago.
No confirmed evidence has been found yet.
But the search continues. Patiently, Mars occasionally experiences Marsquakes. These small quakes shake the ground beneath the surface. NASA's InSight lander listened carefully to these distant vibrations. By studying the waves moving through the planet, scientists learned more about Mars' hidden interior. The Martian poles are covered with layers of ice and dust. These layers preserve clues about ancient climate changes. Like tree rings on Earth. The layers quietly record the passage of time. Mars has inspired human imagination for centuries. Ancient astronomers watched its reddish glow crossing the night sky. Because of its color, many cultures connected Mars with war. The Romans named the planet after their god of war. Yet today, Mars feels less like a symbol of conflict and more like a symbol of curiosity. A quiet destination, waiting far away in the darkness. A spacecraft named Mariner 4 captured blurry black and white images. For the first time, humans saw close-up views of another planet. The photographs revealed craters and barren terrain. Mars appeared lonely and ancient. Since then, technology has improved enormously. Today, we can see detailed panoramas of cliffs, dunes, and sunsets from millions of kilometers away. Some Martian rocks contain minerals that form in water. These discoveries strengthen the idea that ancient Mars may once have supported habitable environments. Mars is farther from the Sun than Earth. Because of this, sunlight there is weaker. Even during daytime, the light would feel dimmer and softer than sunlight on Earth. The air pressure on Mars is extremely low. Liquid water cannot remain stable on the surface for long. Instead of forming lakes, exposed water would quickly freeze or evaporate. Some scientists believe salty water may occasionally flow briefly under special conditions. Mars has fascinated writers for generations. Stories imagined civilizations, canals, and mysterious beings living beneath the surface. Most of those early ideas were incorrect, but they helped inspire interest in space exploration. The rover Perseverance currently explores Jezero Crater. This crater may once have contained an ancient lake. Perseverance collects rock samples that may eventually return to Earth one day.
Attached to Perseverance was a tiny helicopter named Ingenuity. It became the first aircraft to achieve powered flight on another planet. Imagine the quiet wonder of tiny spinning blades lifting gently into the thin Martian air. Mars often appears bright in Earth's night sky. Sometimes it glows with a deep orange-red color, visible even without a telescope. Ancient sky watchers could not have imagined that robots would someday explore that distant light. The northern and southern hemispheres of Mars are very different. The northern regions are lower and smoother, The southern regions are older and heavily cratered. Scientists think enormous impacts may have shaped these differences long ago. Mars contains dunes that slowly shift over time. Winds push grains of sand across the surface in graceful patterns. Some dunes move only tiny amounts each year. Time itself seems slower on Mars. The planet smells different too. Astronauts have never directly smelled Mars without equipment. But scientists studying Martian dust suggest it may resemble rust, minerals, or even faint burned odors. The night sky on Mars would look beautiful. Because the atmosphere is thinner, stars would appear sharp and clear. Earth itself would shine like a bright star in the distance. Imagine standing alone beneath that sky. A silent desert world beneath endless stars. Some scientists dream of building future colonies on Mars. Habitats may one day protect astronauts from radiation and cold. Greenhouses could grow plants beneath artificial light. People might someday wake up beneath domes on another planet.
Yet Mars would remain dangerous and isolated.
The nearest humans would still be millions of kilometers away.
Communication delays between Earth and Mars can last many minutes.
A simple conversation would feel slow and distant.
Every message would travel patiently through space.
Mars rotates on a tilted axis, similar to Earth.
That tilt creates changing seasons. During spring and summer, polar ice partially melts and changes the atmosphere slightly.
There are places on Mars where ancient river deltas remain frozen in time.
These branching patterns strongly suggest flowing water once existed there.
The planet's surface is covered with impact craters from asteroids and comets.
Some are tiny,
Others stretch for enormous distances.
each crater marks a moment from the deep history of the solar system.
Mars probably formed about 4.5 billion years ago.
For most of that time, it has drifted quietly around the sun.
Humans have only recently begun to exploring it.
One fascinating feature on Mars is called recurring slope lineae. These dark streaks appear seasonally on steep slopes. Scientists continue debating exactly
how they form. Mars has clouds. Thin, wispy clouds sometimes float high in the atmosphere. Some are made of water ice. Others are made from frozen carbon dioxide. At dawn and dusk, these clouds can glow beautifully in sunlight. The gravity on Mars may affect the human body during long stays. Scientists still study how muscles, bones, and health would change over time. Future astronauts may need special exercise routines to remain healthy. The first person to walk on Mars has not yet arrived. But somewhere in the future, human footprints may press softly into Martian dust for the very first time. Those footprints could remain preserved for ages. Mars once had flowing lava across its surface. Volcanoes shaped huge regions of the planet. Today, most volcanic activity appears dormant. The world rests in cold silence. Some Martian meteorites have landed on Earth. These rocks were blasted away from Mars by ancient impacts and eventually traveled across space. Scientists study them carefully for clues about the planet's history. The thin atmosphere means parachutes on Mars are less effective than on Earth. Landing spacecraft safely is extremely difficult. Engineers call it the 7 minutes of terror. Every landing requires careful timing and extraordinary precision. Mars is sometimes covered by delicate frost during cold mornings. Thin, icy patterns briefly form before sunlight warms the ground. The planet's dust can cling stubbornly to equipment. Future astronauts may constantly battle fine red particles covering suits and machines. Despite its harshness, Mars continues attracting curiosity. Perhaps it is because the planet feels strangely familiar. Deserts, mountains, seasons, ice. Mars feels almost like a memory of Earth, transformed by time. If oceans truly existed there long ago, their disappearance remains one of the greatest mysteries in planetary science. Where did the water go? How long did it remain? Could life have existed while the world was warmer? Questions drift quietly through the minds of scientists year after year. The sun appears smaller from Mars. Daylight would feel gentler and more distant. At sunrise and sunset, shadows stretch long across the landscape. Some regions of Mars contain layered cliffs that reveal ancient geological history. Each layer records environmental changes across immense stretches of time. Studying those layers is like reading a history book written in stone. The largest dust storms on Mars can sometimes be seen from Earth through telescopes. Entire regions disappear beneath swirling clouds. Eventually, the dust settles once more. Silence returns. Mars does not have breathable oxygen for humans. Future explorers would rely heavily on technology for survival. Every breath would depend on machines. Scientists are developing systems that can create oxygen from the Martian atmosphere. One experiment aboard Perseverance successfully produced small amounts of oxygen using carbon dioxide. Tiny steps toward future exploration. The names of Martian regions often sound poetic. Arabia Terra, Elysium Planitia, Utopia Plantia, Noctis Labyrinthus. Ancient words attached to distant landscapes. Noctis Labyrinthus means labyrinth of the night. Even the name feels dreamy. The poles of Mars expand and shrink with the seasons. Frozen carbon dioxide gathers during winter and partially disappears during warmer months. These seasonal changes subtly alter atmospheric pressure. The planet is home to countless ancient scars from impacts. Some craters may once have filled with water. Others remain dry and untouched for billions of years. There are places on Mars where wind has carved ripples into sand dunes. The patterns resemble waves frozen in motion. Mars may once have experienced huge floods. Certain channels suggest enormous volumes of water rushed suddenly across the landscape long ago. Today, those channels lie empty beneath silent skies. Scientists use orbiters around Mars to map the surface carefully. These spacecraft study weather, minerals, ice deposits, and terrain. Some orbiters have operated for many years. The coldest temperatures on Mars can become incredibly extreme. Near the poles during winter, temperatures may fall below -125 degrees Celsius. Yet, despite the cold, the planet still captures human imagination warmly. There are moments when Earth and Mars come unusually close together in orbit. During these times, Mars shines especially bright in the night sky. People across Earth look upward and wonder,
Ancient, dried riverbeds twist across parts of Mars like veins.
From orbit, they reveal the paths water may once have followed. The Curiosity rover once drilled into rocks containing ancient clay minerals. Clay often forms in the presence of water. Discoveries like this continue building the story of a wetter, ancient Mars. Mars has inspired artists, filmmakers, and dreamers. Its lonely beauty feels both peaceful and haunting. Perhaps that is why so many people imagine journeys there. The atmosphere on Mars is too thin to protect against radiation effectively. Future habitats may need thick shielding or underground protection. Some scientists imagine homes built beneath the surface. Quiet tunnels beneath red deserts. Warm lights glowing underground while dust storms move overhead. Sunrises on Mars would arrive slowly across wide open plains. The sky would gradually brighten from dark blue-black into dusty gold. Frost might sparkle briefly before fading away. Mars does not have plate tectonics like Earth. Its crust does not constantly recycle itself. As a result, ancient surface features remain preserved much longer. Some regions are unimaginably old. The rover spirit became trapped in soft soil during its mission. Engineers tried for months to free it. Eventually, communication ended.
But even after becoming stuck, Spirit still continued gathering scientific information for some time.
The dedication of these small robotic explorers feels oddly touching. Tiny machines, patiently wandering another world. Mars may once have had rainfall. Tiny droplets falling onto ancient ground billions of years ago. Today, the planet is far too cold and dry for ordinary rain. Some scientists believe underground environments on Mars might still offer conditions where microbial life could survive.
Perhaps deep below the surface, protected from radiation and cold.
For now, it remains only a possibility.
The dust on Mars is electrically reactive.
It may stick to surfaces easily. Managing dust could become one of the biggest challenges for future explorers. The first color images from Mars amazed people around the world. For the first time, the distant planet felt real, not merely a point of light in the sky, but a physical landscape. The place, Mars, has inspired countless dreams about humanity's future. Some see it as the next frontier. Others simply admire it from afar. Either way, the planet continues quietly orbiting the sun. Patient, silent, ancient. One day, humans may watch Earth rise from the surface of Mars. A tiny blue star glowing in the darkness. Perhaps future travelers will feel homesick while looking at that distant light. Mars reminds us how precious Earth truly is. Our oceans, our forests, our air, our warmth, compared to the cold silence of Mars, Earth feels incredibly alive.
And yet Mars remains beautiful in its own quiet way.
The frozen desert world, painted red beneath pale sunlight. As we slowly come to the end of tonight's journey, imagine yourself standing once more beneath the Martian sky. The wind has grown calm. Dust settles softly across the silent plains. Above you, countless stars shimmer in the darkness. Far away, Earth glows faintly like a tiny blue lantern in space. And around you stretches the peaceful stillness of another world. Perhaps somewhere beneath the surface of Mars lie hidden stories still waiting to be discovered.
Ancient rivers,
Frozen oceans,
Secrets carried quietly through billions of years. But for tonight, there is nothing left to search for.
only rest, only silence.
Only the slow drifting feeling of sleep. Thank you for spending this journey with Sleepy Obsidian Study. If you are still awake, gently close your eyes and let your thoughts wander across the red planet one last time.
And as Mars continues its quiet orbit through the darkness of space, you can slowly drift into dreams of distant deserts, blue sunsets, and silent stars. Good night. And yet, even after all we have explored tonight, Mars still holds countless quiet mysteries.
The planet seems endless when you think about it slowly. Every crater, every canyon, every drifting cloud of dust,
All of it waiting silently beneath the distant sunlight.
So let us continue wandering a little farther across the red planet together. Imagine now that you are traveling slowly across Mars inside a small exploration rover. The wheels move carefully over soft dust and scattered stones. Outside the windows, the horizon stretches endlessly in every direction.
No cities.
No roads.
No crowds.
Only open space and silence.
Far away, ancient cliffs glow faintly beneath the pale afternoon light.
Mars is sometimes called a frozen desert.
And in many ways, it truly is. Huge stretches of land remain dry and empty for thousands of kilometers. Yet, even deserts have beauty. The dunes on Mars form elegant curved shapes. Wind slowly sculpts them over many years. Some dunes are dark, like charcoal. Others appear golden or reddish beneath sunlight. Scientists have even observed dunes slowly migrating across the surface. Tiny grain by tiny grain. Movement so slow that it almost feels timeless. The sky on Mars changes color throughout the day. In the early morning, it may appear soft pink near the horizon.
By midday, the atmosphere can glow with dusty orange tones.
At sunset, blue light gathers gently around the setting sun. If you watched long enough, the changing colors might feel hypnotic. Mars receives less sunlight than Earth. The sunlight there feels weaker and colder. Even during daytime, the world would seem quieter somehow. Shadows stretch farther. The air carries less brightness. Everything feels softened. One of the strangest sounds on Mars may actually be the wind. Because the atmosphere is so thin, wind behaves differently than it does on Earth. Instead of loud roaring gusts, the sound may resemble faint whispers, moving softly across metal and stone. NASA rovers have recorded some of these Martian winds. Listening to them feels almost dreamlike. A lonely breeze drifting through another world. Mars has fascinated humanity, partly because it is one of the few planets that almost seems reachable. Not easy, not safe, but possible. Unlike distant gas giants or burning worlds near the sun, Mars feels like a place where footsteps might someday exist. A place where tiny lights from human settlements could one day glow softly against the darkness. The ancient Egyptians observed Mars thousands of years ago. To them, the wandering red light crossing the heavens must have felt mysterious. Generations after them continued watching the same distant planet. Across centuries, Mars remained constant in the night sky, while entire civilizations rose and disappeared. The surface gravity on Mars would change simple, everyday actions. Pouring water, walking, lifting objects, jumping. Everything would feel lighter. Astronauts might move with slow, floating motions across the terrain. Even falling dust behaves differently there. Tiny particles drift gently downward through the thin atmosphere. Mars contains giant plains formed long ago by flowing lava. Some of these volcanic plains stretch beyond the horizon. They are quiet now, cold, still. But billions of years ago, glowing rivers of lava may have crossed those same regions. The thought of ancient volcanoes reshaping another planet feels strangely calming. A reminder that worlds themselves slowly change over unimaginable time. Scientists believe Mars once had a thicker atmosphere.
Long ago, the planet may have been warmer than it is today.
Rivers could have carved valleys slowly across the land. Rain may have fallen beneath dark clouds.
Lakes may have reflected sunlight beneath ancient skies.
Then, over immense stretches of time, Mars changed. Its atmosphere weakened. Its water disappeared. Its warmth faded. And the world became the cold desert we know today.
Sometimes when people imagine Mars, they picture complete silence.
But Mars is not truly silent. Dust moves. Wind blows. Tiny rocks shift. Machines hum softly. And somewhere deep beneath the ground, Marsquakes occasionally tremble through the crust. Still, compared to Earth, Mars feels incredibly peaceful. No forests filled with insects. No crashing oceans.
No crowded highways.
Just open land beneath distant stars. One day, astronauts may grow plants on Mars. Small gardens inside protected habitats. Green leaves beneath artificial sunlight. Living green life surrounded by endless red desert. Some scientists have tested growing crops in soil designed to resemble Martian dirt. Future explorers may rely on carefully controlled indoor farms. Mars also experiences enormous temperature swings. During one part of the day, the ground may warm beneath sunlight. the cold arrives quickly on Mars.
The planet cannot hold warmth easily.
If you looked up from Mars during nighttime, the stars might appear almost unbelievably clear.
Without thick atmosphere or city lights, constellations would shine brilliantly.
The Milky Way could stretch brightly overhead like a glowing river. Earth would appear only as a bright point of light, a tiny home floating far away in darkness.
That image feels emotional somehow.
Our entire world appearing no larger than a star.
Mars has inspired music, paintings, films, and stories because it awakens a feeling of distance.
A sense of quiet longing.
The planet feels lonely, but beautifully lonely.
The first maps of Mars, created through telescopes, were often inaccurate.
Some astronomers believed they saw canals crossing the surface.
People imagined civilizations building massive waterways. In reality, those lines were optical illusions. But the excitement surrounding Mars grew stronger. Human imagination filled the red planet with possibilities. Even today, Mars still encourages dreaming. Some dream of exploration. Some dream of discovery. Some simply enjoy looking at its soft reddish glow in the night sky. The southern hemisphere of Mars contains many ancient craters. These regions are among the oldest surfaces in the solar system. Some rocks there have remained unchanged for billions of years. Imagine touching a stone older than almost anything on Earth. Time on Mars feels enormous. The planet reminds us how brief human life truly is. And yet, humans continue reaching outward toward it. Tiny creatures on a small blue planet, trying to understand distant worlds. Mars also has avalanches.
Scientists have observed dust and ice sliding down cliffs.
Even on a cold, quiet planet, landscapes continue changing slowly. The thin atmosphere creates unusual weather patterns. Clouds sometimes form near volcanoes.
Morning fogs occasionally drift above valleys.
Dust rises and settles. The planet breathes in its own quiet way. If future cities are ever built on Mars, they may look very different from cities on Earth. Rounded domes, underground tunnels, protected habitats. Large windows might reveal dusty horizons stretching endlessly outside. Perhaps future children will someday look out those windows and watch blue Martian sunsets.
The idea almost feels impossible.
And yet, space exploration has already achieved things once thought impossible.
Tiny robotic rovers crossing alien deserts.
Helicopters flying through another planet's sky.
The Sheens drilling ancient rocks in search of forgotten water.
Mars teaches patience.
Signals traveling between Earth and Mars take time.
Missions require years of planning.
Rovers move carefully and slowly.
Nothing happens quickly there.
Perhaps that is part of why the planet feels soothing.
Mars exists at a slower pace,
A calmer rhythm.
Even storms drift gradually across the world.
Sometimes entire weeks pass while dust quietly circles the planet.
The names of Mars missions often carry hopeful meanings.
Spirit,
Opportunity,
curiosity,
Perseverance.
ingenuity.
These names sound almost poetic, as though humanity sends not only machines into space, but also its hopes.
Scientists continue studying whether Mars once possessed conditions suitable for life. Liquid water,
Energy.
Stable environments.
All the ingredients that life on Earth seems to require.
If even tiny microbes once lived there, it would change humanity's understanding of life forever.
Perhaps life is not rare. Perhaps the universe quietly creates it wherever conditions allow. Or perhaps Mars remained empty and silent from the beginning.
For now, we do not know. Mars sometimes disappears behind the sun from Earth's perspective. During those periods, communication with spacecraft becomes difficult. Engineers must wait patiently until the planets move again. Even modern technology must respect the vastness of space.
The cold deserts of Mars resemble some environments on Earth.
Scientists study dry valleys in Antarctica and deserts in Chile to better understand Martian conditions.
These lonely places on Earth help prepare humans for exploring another world.
The idea of watching snowfall on Mars feels strangely beautiful.
Tiny frozen particles drifting through thin air beneath an orange sky.
Quiet snowfall on a silent planet.
No sounds except faint wind.
No footprints except your own.
Mars rotates steadily every day, just as Earth does.
sunrise, sunset, night.
Perhaps that continuity feels comforting. No matter where humans travel, the cycle of days remains familiar. Some scientists believe lava tubes exist beneath Mars. These underground tunnels formed long ago by flowing lava. Future explorers might one day use them as natural shelters from radiation and cold. Hidden caves beneath the red surface, dark and quiet.
Mars can sometimes look surprisingly blue in certain photographs. Different cameras and lighting conditions reveal subtle colors hidden within the dusty landscape. The planet is more varied than many people realize. Rust red, golden brown, gray stone, pink skies,
Blue sunsets.
an entire world painted with soft colors. The farther humans explore Mars, the more complex it becomes. Once appeared to be a simple, barren planet, now reveals layered geology, climate cycles, frozen water, and ancient environmental history. Mars is not dead. It is simply quiet. And perhaps that quietness is why the planet feels so perfect for drifting thoughts and sleepy imagination. Imagine now that night has fully arrived on Mars. The temperature drops rapidly. The wind slows. The sky deepens into darkness. Above you, stars shine with incredible clarity. Phobos slowly crosses overhead, its irregular shape moving silently against the constellations. Far away, Earth glows faintly, a tiny blue point suspended in the infinite black ocean of space. You sit quietly beside your rover. The red dust beneath your boots is ancient. The cliffs in the distance have watched over this landscape for billions of years. And for a few peaceful moments, the entire universe feels still. No pressure, no noise, no rushing thoughts. Only calm, only space. Only the slow breathing rhythm of sleep beginning to arrive. Thank you again for joining Sleepy Obsidian Study on this gentle journey across Mars. If your eyes are growing heavy now, that is perfectly okay. You can simply rest here, beneath the quiet Martian sky.
Then as the red planet continues drifting endlessly through space, you can drift peacefully into dreams beside it.
Good night.